Hello, everyone. I'm Jason Bittner from Triple Helix Corporation, and welcome to another episode of our Helix Insider podcast. I'm joined in studio today from two of my senior developers, Sam Sheldon and Andy Webster. Well, welcome, everyone. Today, we want to talk about a topic that's very near and dear to our hearts, and that is the tools and strategies for productivity in remote work. Um, I think everyone can agree that during pandemic, when we were all quarantined and staying at home, we saw a huge rise in remote work among our companies and our clients and our colleagues. And everyone can attest that for some companies, that was quite a challenge being able to pivot to a remote work situation. Triple Helix as a company, we've always been a remote work at home company. All of the staff have their own remote offices, and some of them are not even here in Connecticut. We have staff all over the country. And so thankfully for us, the remote work wasn't a challenge. However, we did acknowledge that because we were already remote, during pandemic, we actually were blessed with the productivity bonus that we'd always had. However, wanted to talk a little bit today about some of the challenges and as well as some of the opportunities and some of the best practices that we've had in working remotely, and wanted to share that with you. So let's start with you, Sam. What are some of the benefits that you see in being able to work remotely?
Yeah, so for me, as Jason said, some of us don't even live in Connecticut. I'm one of those people. I actually live in Maine. And one of the biggest things about working remotely now that I live here is that we get a lot of snow up here in Maine. Like our whole winter is just usually there's at least a foot of snow on the ground. I mean, heck, I think we're supposed to get a foot of it next week. Um, and I have a long driveway. So there are days when I am legitimately kind of snowed in. And it is so nice to not have to worry about digging myself out of my driveway in pre-dawn hours of the day just to get to work. It means I can get up, I can say, "Yep, there's snow out there. I'll clear it when I get to it." But right now I can go to work and get things done. That's pretty massive for me. And also just not having all the noise and bustle of an office can also be really nice. There's not like there's not, people over in a different corner of the room having a phone call, nobody's walking by my desk, all that good stuff.
Awesome, Sam. Sorry, Andy, your thoughts?
To comment on your snow situation, yeah, it's nice not to have to shovel immediately. I I've had I felt bad. Sometimes I've got really nice neighbors and they see that I haven't shoveled yet and they'll come over and snow blow my driveway and I'm like, "Oh, you didn't have to do that. I was going to come out eventually, but thank you." but um but yeah, there's that. Definitely because you don't have to drive. You don't have to hustle in the morning, really. You can get up, make your breakfast, bring it to your desk. um, and uh, and if you have kids, you don't have to have that time of commuting between that you usually would have if you're going to an office. So there's that family benefit too, that you just you know if your work was a half an hour away, you get an hour back of time that you wouldn't have otherwise. And not to mention the wear and tear on your car, the gas, all that stuff um, adds up. And but and honestly, but the biggest benefit I would say is not having the hustle and bustle of an office. I know certain people like that. I guess it's just a preference in some cases, but I find I get a lot more done when I don't have somebody having a distracting conversation over there, or somebody coming up to check on me for something that um, they could have sent me a message to have that conversation, and then things like that. It's just you get it's easier to stay focused because you can set your environment in some sense. I mean, we do we do keep in touch throughout the day with our team, but it's different in that sense that if people are having a conversation on Slack and you need to focus, you can just close it, move it away, go focus on what you need to do, and you can really you can choose a little better what is coming in as far as inputs into your office.
Right, right. I mean, as a member of the Long Driveway Club, I greatly appreciate not having to run outside and shovel the driveway right away. And hell, sometimes we have the opportunity to wait for the rain to come, and then you don't have to shovel it all. That's actually kind of nice. But so okay, it's not all sunshine and roses though. Sometimes sometimes the remote work can have some of its own challenges too. Sam, why don't you share some of the challenges we have with remote work? It's not all sunshine and roses, as I say.
Yeah. And I think Andy touched on the fact that since we're not in an office, most of our communication is going on via phone or Slack, and there really is sometimes no substitution for being able to just put something down on the desk in front of somebody and point at it and say, this is what I need help with, or this is what I need done, or it's this bit here that we're struggling with. Like, there's things like Zoom and screen share and phone calls, like that gets you 90% of the way there, but sometimes there just really is no substitute for just being able to physically point at something. Or like, for example, I know recently, Jason, there was something that we needed to be able to print like in a very specific way, and you had to like physically mail me over the course of I think it took maybe a week to get here, a printed copy of this, which is always annoying when if we were in the same office, it would have been a 30-second drop it on my desk. And also, sometimes you just miss being able to sit next to a coworker because that is sometimes nice to do. It's nice to have the option. I know there was a period of time actually when I still lived in Connecticut. I think it was a power outage actually, where Andy and I had both gone into the office, and that was kind of nice just to have that. Made a big desk. You know, worked made a big desk, sat on opposite sides of it, got to pass papers back and forth, read each other's terrible handwriting. There's a camaraderie to that you do miss out on.
Yeah, no, I can definitely agree to that. That although I do feel like I'm more productive working from home, I do sometimes miss that being in an office, talking to somebody behind you. It's a morale a boost thing. Um, so I do find that I need to that when I'm done for the day, I usually want to go somewhere. I want to get out of the house. But whether that's like grocery shopping or go see my family or something like that, or get out with the kids. But it's just that is a downside, I'll say. But I don't think it overweighs the upsides of it necessarily. You have to maintain that balance yourself because it's not um, laid out for you as if you're driving into a place every day.
Right, absolutely. So I'd like to pivot now to talking about some of the tools that we use for remote productivity. Sam, you'd mentioned earlier Slack. For our listeners who aren't familiar with that, it's basically instant messenger. Microsoft Teams is a similar tool. And remote work collaboration and productivity tools. I have to say, for me personally, the Slack instant messaging has been probably one of the biggest productivity drivers I have ever seen for our company. And the reason for it is that you can rather not email, sorry, instant message somebody on Slack. Slack will tell you if they're actually working because you get a little green dot that says they're actually there working and live. You can send them a message and you know that they can get back to you almost immediately. And there's something interesting about like if you phone somebody, there's like this personal social contract that we follow where it's like, hey, how are you doing? And blah, blah, blah. And you don't have that with instant messaging. You just say exactly what you want or what you need, and they respond to you exactly what you need. And so your method of communications is that much faster. The other thing that we do here at Triple Helix is we set up channels. So very specific channels for very specific topics. If we're working a specific project, we'll make a channel that is that project's name. And then things and communications relevant to that project are discussed in that channel. So it helps to sort of segregate all of the noise, like you're actually talking about a certain subject in the channel. And when the channel has a new message, it lights up to say, hey, something's new here. And you don't have to focus on it. I mean, that's the productivity benefit. You can just like ignore it until you're ready. But if you're actively working on that project, somebody posts to the channel, you're like, oh, what did this person say? What did this person need? So for me, I felt it's really, really powerful. And the other stuff we have, phone calls, Zoom calls, the instant messaging, traditional email, of course, all those things are really well and good. But for me, I think number one is instant messaging has really resonated with me personally. Curious on your thoughts for both of you on what tools we use, and obviously things I haven't even mentioned here.
I mean, Trello is a good thing that we use for
Oh yeah, let's talk about that. Tell our listeners what Trello is.
yeah, we use Trello for managing projects. So we use another thing called ConnectWise, which we'll touch on later, to manage our time and like a larger chunk of like this is our project, this is our task. But Trello we use for breaking down smaller components of a project. So say you're designing a bunch of reports for something and you want to split it out amongst all your team members, you could basically just make little cards and split out. Okay, you're going to do, the consumption report. You're going to do the sales report. You're going to do the TPS report, and you know, I don't know why that popped into my head, but you know, you could split it out. You could say, okay, Sam, you're going to do this one. Pedro, you're going to do this one. You could split it out between your team members, and then it's a Kanban. I don't know how you say it, but so you can have little columns of done, in progress, these kinds of things, and you can move it along, and you can make comments, and it's pretty interactive. So you can kind of leave a note for whoever picks it up next that they have a good idea of what you did if you took good notes, and 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 also so that people managing the projects can come in and see what's they can just pop in and see at a glance like what's done, what's not done. So you do have to keep up with it, but it's useful for communication remotely very very quickly, I find.
Yeah. We've used it for, I think we've used it for workflow management as well, because now rather than having to go to whoever's doing our testing and say, hey, Bob, can you test XYZ? We just drag the card over to the testing column, and then Bob will know, hey, there's testing to be done. Here is exactly what needs to be tested. We'll put a note on it that says where you need to go to test it, what it's supposed to do, things like that. And then it'll either be cleared, okay, it's good to go, or it gets moved back into our backlog with a note about whatever issue there was, things like that. So it helps kind of clarify the workflow too, which is something that I think in a lot of offices, I know in the past I've done that on like a whiteboard. Sometimes you'll just, and sometimes in an actual office, it's just as easy to go and tap somebody on the shoulder. But it's nice to have that enforcement of like your actual workflow.
Yeah, I will say like the tool sets that we use, we've carefully selected them to be efficient. And, it's not just about running out and grabbing the next tool. Oh, if I have this next thing, it's going to make me more efficient. It's about deciding which tools you're going to use. And, you mentioned ConnectWise there a moment ago. So, on this podcast, we talk a lot about our manufacturing customers, and they're using something called an ERP, or Enterprise Resource Planning Software System. They use those tools to run their companies. At Triple Helix, we actually, our ERP is a software program called ConnectWise, and it's pretty much like an ERP, but it's done for software developers and MSPs, managed service providers, and it's amazing. It does everything we need to do to keep ourselves organized, our time, our projects, our finances. But in the case of Trello, Trello is a very surgical, laser-like focused project tracking tool that allows us to get really granular. And when the team first came to me and said, "Hey, we want to use Trello," and I'm like, I'm a little nervous because you can go death by too many software tools. And after reviewing it, and I was like, okay, pulling this out of ConnectWise so the project itself can get managed and tracked made a lot of sense. But for anyone out there thinking about like how to make their companies more efficient through software, I mean, be careful what you pick. But when you do find a good one, Trello has worked very well for us. Then by all means jump in with it. And because it's remote work again, these tools allow you to be remote collaborative. People can be working in those boards online, and you're not actually limited by uh, being in an office per se. So I want to pivot to our next topic, and that's just really just strategies for making remote work productive and working well for you. And it's very, very important to have a dedicated workspace for your remote work. In a pinch, you can spread out on the kitchen table, but reality is that if you're going to be efficient, you have to have a workspace. You have to have an office, even if it's in home. And the idea that you establish a daily routine for when you're going to be in that office and when you're not. Because unfortunately, if you're at home, the work life balance seems to blend over. So half the time you're working and you're really not working, you're in personal stuff. And the other half of the time you're actually doing personal stuff in your work office, and blending that can actually get to be a problem. So it's very important to know, where your work ends and where your life begins, kind of a thing. And remote work makes that more challenging. So making sure that you do have that separation, and of course not working all the time, because your remote work is right there in front of you all the time. There's a tendency for us to go like, oh, I'll go do some work and work a few more hours, and the next thing you know, you're burning out. And I love Sam and Andy share some of those thoughts and strategies with me, because or on listeners, because I'll tell you, I've been guilty of that. Right, you get into the office at 9 a.m. and then all of a sudden it's 10 p.m. and you're like, what happened to the day? So, what do you guys think?
I've got pretty clear boundaries because I have kids. So they come in here at the moment that they know when I get out of work. And they come in here and say, "All right, Dad, time to put in your time." That's what my daughter says. And so so I do. She's my little reminder. But so I have that. But also I I mean my I have a dedicated space and I don't really use it for anything else other than working. Um, but yeah, I mean, to me, it's pretty clear. I just, the set hours again, just you know, 9 to 5:30, you know, and if I do have something else that I need to finish, I'll usually come back much later, come back at night or something, and I'll set myself like a time limit. I'll be like, all right, I'm going to work on this for an hour or 2 hours or something like that, and see how far I get. But just I don't know. To me, I generally those are pretty ingrained in me by now. But it kind of as you do it more, you kind of get more used to like self managing your work time versus your home time. And and the other thing to add to that is just the kind of person that I am. Sometimes I'll have something that's just burning on me. Like I have to finish that, or else I'm not going to be able to sleep. And the sometimes I can go sit down and actually solve that problem. And sometimes after you have not thought about it for a while, and then you think about it again a couple hours later, you're like, oh, that's so much easier. And usually you get it done in like 15 minutes. So and not having to drive all the way to an office to do that is definitely nice.
When I'm not actually working, shut my door. I practice the out of sight, out of mind. If I'm working, I come in here and I work. I come in here and work at my desk. Occasionally, I'll work out in my living room or something because sometimes I just want to look out the big window and enjoy the enjoy nature and stuff. But once the day is over, once I'm out, I shut the door and I don't think about it until I come back in the morning. Yep, it's nice, and yeah, that does do a lot to delineate work and not work.
No, that's all very good points. And I'm basically what you're speaking to is just avoiding burnout, and everyone's way and strategy of doing that is going to be different. Well, this has been a really great podcast. We've actually gone over a lot of material, and I want to thank my guests, Sam and Andy. Before we go, final thoughts, good strategies, any parting thoughts you can leave for our listeners about converting to remote work or making your existing remote work more productive? Andy, I'll start with you.
I mean, I I love it. It's great. I feel like it benefits my whole life better because I can eat healthier because I don't have to buy food at a cafeteria. I feel comfortable because I'm in my home. I don't have to use public bathrooms. That's great. There's just a lot of small benefits that add up that make you feel more at home, and they make you feel more relaxed so you can think better. That's in general. I Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Sam, final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm definitely with Andy. There's a lot of benefits to working from home, and I'm definitely a big proponent of it. It's definitely a lot more comfortable hanging out in your house than it is in an office. You can wear comfy clothes, no one's seeing you. Like Andy said, you can use your own bathroom, you can eat lunch, you can make your lunch in your own kitchen, and you don't have to worry about sharing the fridge and everything. I think my biggest closing thought is just experiment with different techniques that to make your work from home productive. Not everything is going to work for everybody. I'm sure there are some people for whom the clearly delineated workspace is just not helping them. But yeah, experiment, try different things, figure out what works for you.
Great. Well, hey, I want to thank both of my special guests, Sam Sheldon and Andy Webster, are two of our senior developers here at Triple Helix. And parting thoughts, if you like what you see, be sure to like, share, and subscribe down in the comments below. And until next time, this has been the Helix Insider Podcast. I'm Jason Bittner from Triple Helix. Thanks, everybody.